The withdrawal. The holographic emblem of the United Earth Government rotated silently above the podium as Admiral Alina Reyes stepped forward. The chamber fell silent. Representatives from over 30 species shifted in their varied seating arrangements, some perched on suspended platforms, others submerged in liquid tanks. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Alliance on Centaur Prime had never felt so tense. After careful deliberation and a planet-wide referendum, Admiral Reyes began, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. Humanity has decided to withdraw from the Galactic Alliance, effective immediately. We thank the member species for 2 centuries of cooperation, but we must now follow our own path. A cacophony of sounds erupted, clicking mandibles, vibrating air sacs, telepathic bursts of emotion that made the more sensitive species wince. Ambassador Thornvex of the Vexari, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin and 4 arms, raised all of his limbs for silence. Admiral Reyes, he said, his voice a melodious trill, the Alliance Council requests clarification. Is this withdrawal permanent? And what of your peacekeeping forces stationed throughout contested space? Reyes nodded, having anticipated the question. All human forces will be withdrawn within 1 standard galactic year. Our territories will be sealed off. This is not a negotiation, but a notification. As she stepped away from the podium, the chamber erupted again. On the viewing screens across human space, citizens watched with mixed emotions. Some celebrated. Finally, humanity would stop being the galaxy's unpaid security force. Others worried about the consequences. Aboard the UES Defiant, a peacekeeping vessel orbiting the contested world of Terith IV, Captain Marcus Chen watched the announcement with his crew. The human officers stood stiff-backed, while the few alien liaison members displayed their species' varied expressions of shock. Orders are orders, Chen said simply, turning to his executive officer. Begin preparations for withdrawal. We'll be departing Terith in 48 hours. Lieutenant Commander Sofia Rodriguez looked troubled. Sir, the Marini colonists here depend on our protection from Silurian raiders. Without us, the Alliance will need to step up, Chen interrupted. That's the point, Sophia. For too long, we've shouldered burdens that should be shared equally. In his private quarters that night, Chen stared at the ceiling, sleep evading him. 20 years of service in the peacekeeping forces, witnessing firsthand how humanity had become the de facto protectors of the galaxy's vulnerable species. Not because the other advanced races couldn't protect them. They simply wouldn't. Risk aversion was baked into the cultural DNA of species that lived for thousands of years. Why risk lives in a conflict when humans would do it instead? Meanwhile, in the private chambers of the Alliance Council, an emergency session had convened. This is disastrous, hissed Counselor Sith, a serpentine naga whose scales shimmered with agitation. The humans comprise 60% of our peacekeeping forces. Ambassador Thornvex nodded gravely. They are impulsive and emotional, but their courage is unmatched. The Krell Dominion has been containable only because they fear human unpredictability. Elder Zolak of the ancient Arcturian collective waved a dismissive tendril. Let them leave. The Alliance existed for millennia before humans achieved space travel. We will adapt. Thornvex wasn't convinced. As the chamber emptied, he approached Admiral Reyes, who was preparing to board her shuttle back to Earth. Admiral, may I speak frankly? He asked. Reyes nodded, curious what the Vexari diplomat wanted. This withdrawal, it's about respect, isn't it? My species has observed how others treat humans in the Alliance. They call you young, impulsive, emotional, yet they rely on these very qualities when threats emerge. Reyes's composed expression cracked slightly. You understand better than most, Ambassador. For 2 centuries, we've been treated as useful barbarians. We bleed and die protecting Alliance interests while being excluded from decision-making councils because we're too young a species. The referendum passed with 87% support. Humanity has had enough. 3 months into the withdrawal, the consequences began to emerge. The Silurian raiders, sensing opportunity, launched bold attacks against Marini colonies in the Terith system. The Alliance dispatched forces, too few, too late. Captain Chen, now commanding the UES Defiant on its way back to Earth, received the distress call from Terith IV. Protocol dictated he ignore it. The withdrawal was non-negotiable. "Sir," Rodriguez said quietly on the bridge, "Terith IV is reporting civilian casualties in the thousands. The Alliance response forces are still 2 days out." Chen's jaw tightened. "We're under orders, Commander." "Yes, sir." Meanwhile, across the galactic arm, Alliance long-range sensors detected unusual activity in Krell space. The Dominion, a militaristic empire of insectoid beings, had been contained for decades by human-led peacekeeping forces. With those forces withdrawing, Krell battle fleets were mobilizing. On Earth, in the UEG headquarters in Geneva, Admiral Reyes reviewed the latest intelligence with growing concern. "The Krell are testing boundaries everywhere our ships have withdrawn," her intelligence chief reported. "They're calculating, patient. They'll wait until the last human vessel returns to our space, then strike where the Alliance is weakest." Reyes sighed. "As expected, but not our problem anymore." "With respect, Admiral," the intelligence chief said, "we still have people out there. Scientists, colonists who chose to stay in Alliance space, traitors. If the Krell launch a full invasion, those who stayed behind knew the risks," Reyes said sharply, though her eyes betrayed her concern. The vote was clear. We're done being taken for granted. On Centauri Prime, the Alliance Council was in crisis. Reports flooded in from a dozen systems. Without human peacekeepers, conflicts long suppressed were erupting. The Krell Dominion had annexed 2 border worlds already, their queen making it clear this was just the beginning. Ambassador Thornvex stood before the council, his normally luminous skin dull with stress. "We must request human assistance. Pride be damned. We need them." Elder Zolak's tendrils writhed in agitation. "Impossible. We cannot appear so weak as to beg them to return after mere months." "Then we will appear as corpses instead," Thornvex retorted. "The Krell have waited centuries for this opportunity." In a rare unanimous vote, the Council authorized a diplomatic mission to Earth. Thornvex would lead it personally, carrying an unprecedented offer. Humanity would receive full voting rights on all councils, equal to the founding species, in exchange for their return to the Alliance. As Thornvex's diplomatic vessel approached the edge of human space, it encountered the UES Defiant. Captain Chen received the hail with surprise. "Ambassador Thornvex requests permission to board for urgent diplomatic discussions," his communications officer reported. Chen hesitated. His orders were clear. No Alliance vessels were to be permitted into human space during the withdrawal period. Yet a personal visit from one of the most senior diplomats couldn't be ignored. "Permission granted," he decided. "Inform UEG headquarters." When Thornvex boarded the Defiant, his usual composed demeanor was absent. "Captain Chen, I come with grave news. The Krell Dominion has launched a full-scale invasion of Alliance space. 3 worlds have fallen. Billions are at risk." Chen's expression remained neutral. "I sympathize, Ambassador, but our withdrawal decision wasn't made lightly. I'm not authorized to." "The Council offers full membership," Thornvex interrupted. "Equal standing on all bodies. No more second-class status for humanity." Chen was silent for a long moment. "Too late, Ambassador. That should have been offered 200 years ago." As Thornvex's shoulders slumped in defeat, the Defiant sensors screamed an alert. A Krell battle cruiser had dropped out of hyperspace nearby, far beyond their recognized territory. "They're following me," Thornvex whispered. "They must have tracked my vessel. The negotiation offer is known to them. They seek to prevent an Alliance renewal." Chen's training took over. "Battle stations. Ambassador, you'll need tow." The first Krell salvo rocked the ship before he could finish. The Defiant was a peacekeeping vessel, not a warship. It wouldn't stand long against a Krell cruiser. As klaxons wailed and damage reports flooded in, Chen made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. The return. 3 weeks after the Krell engagement with the UES Defiant, the Grand Assembly Hall on Earth was packed with UEG officials and military personnel. Admiral Rice stood at the podium, her face grave. "The Defiant has been officially declared lost with all hands," she announced. "Captain Marcus Chen, his crew, and Ambassador Thorn Vex are presumed dead following an unprovoked Krell attack in neutral space." Murmurs filled the hall. The attack had occurred just outside human territory, an unprecedented act of aggression by the Krell. Furthermore, Rice continued, "We have confirmed reports that the Krell Dominion has conquered 6 Alliance worlds. Their queen, Xisor, has declared that all former human-protected territories are now Krell hunting grounds." Defense Minister Lakshmi Patel stood. "Admiral, what are your recommendations?" Rice squared her shoulders. "The withdrawal was a democratic decision. I cannot recommend overturning the will of our people. However, I suggest we increase our border patrols and prepare defensive measures. The Krell may not stop at Alliance worlds." What Rice didn't know, what no one in the hall knew, was that the UES Defiant had not been destroyed. Severely damaged and running on emergency power, the vessel had managed to escape into the stellar debris field of the Hephaestus Nebula. Captain Chen had ordered all non-essential systems shut down to avoid detection. "Status report," Chen demanded, his uniform singed, a makeshift bandage around his arm. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, blood dried on her temple, checked her tablet. "Life support stable but minimal. Engines at 12% capacity. Communications dead. 23 crew injured, 4 critically." Chen nodded grimly. "And our guest. Ambassador Thorn Vex is assisting Dr. Okafor in medical. Apparently, Vexari have some natural healing abilities." Chen made his way through darkened corridors to the medical bay. There he found Thorn Vex, his 4 arms moving in intricate patterns over an injured crewman. A soft blue glow emanated from his fingertips. "Captain," the ambassador acknowledged without looking up, "your crew member will recover." "Thank you, Ambassador. We need to talk." When the crewman was stabilized, Thorn Vex followed Chen to a quiet corner. "The Krell weren't just targeting me," Thorn Vex said softly. "They're making the calculated move against all potential resistance. With humans withdrawn and the Alliance fractured, they believe their time has come." Chen studied the alien diplomat. "You knew this would happen when we announced our withdrawal." "We suspected. The Krell have always feared humans above all other species. Your unpredictability, your willingness to sacrifice for others, these are incomprehensible to them, and therefore frightening." Chen leaned back against the bulkhead. "So now what? We're damaged, stranded, and officially presumed dead." Thorn Vex's eyes gleamed. "Perhaps being dead offers certain freedoms, Captain." 2 days later, the Defiant limped out of the nebula, running on jury-rigged engines. Their destination, Terith IV, now under Krell occupation. "This is mutiny," Rodriguez said quietly as she worked alongside Chen to reroute power to the weapon systems. "If we survive and return to Earth, we'll face court-martial." Chen didn't look up from his work. "Noted, Commander. Feel free to log your objection." Rodriguez smiled faintly. "Who said I was objecting?" The plan was audacious to the point of insanity. The Defiant would pose as a derelict, drifting into Terith's orbit. A small team, Chen, Rodriguez, Thorn Vex, and 3 volunteers, would use the ship's only functioning shuttle to reach the surface. There, they would contact the Resistance and provide tactical support. "Our goal isn't to liberate the planet," Chen briefed his team. "That's impossible with our resources. We're going to help evacuate key Resistance leaders and scientific personnel before the Krell's second wave arrives." What Chen couldn't have known was that news of the Defiant's destruction had catalyzed a fierce debate back on Earth. Leaked intelligence about the expanding Krell invasion had sparked protests in major cities, demonstrations demanding that humanity honor its protective commitments to vulnerable worlds. Admiral Rice found herself in the minority for the first time, defending a withdrawal that seemed increasingly like abandonment in the face of atrocity. The UEG convened an emergency session to debate a response to the Krell aggression. Meanwhile, at the edge of human space, a fleet began to assemble quietly, captains and crews volunteering for what many believed would be a suicide mission. On Terith IV, Chen's team moved through the ruins of what had been a thriving marine colony. The small furred beings had been peaceful researchers, their technology focused on medicine and agriculture. The Krell had been systematic. Research centers destroyed first, then habitation zones. They're not just conquering, Thornvex observed grimly. They're erasing. Using the ambassador's knowledge of marine culture, they located the hidden entrance to the resistance bunker. Inside, they found not just marine survivors, but representatives from a dozen species, Alliance citizens who had been on Terith when the invasion came. Among them was Dr. Lara, a renowned Arcadian xenobiologist whose work on interspecies disease prevention had saved millions of lives. Captain Chen, she said, her crystalline voice tinged with disbelief. We received word your ship was destroyed. Greatly exaggerated, Chen replied. We're here to evacuate key personnel. You have 12 hours to choose who goes. Dr. Lara's faceted eyes gleamed. It won't matter. The Krell aren't merely conquering territory, Captain. They're implementing a biological weapon, one that targets specific neural pathways in sentient species. They've already deployed it on 2 worlds. Chen felt ice in his veins. Casualties. Total, Dr. Lara whispered. But I have developed a countermeasure. It's not complete, but with proper facilities. You just got the first ticket off this rock, Doctor, Chen said grimly. Back aboard the damaged Defiant, Rodriguez had managed to restore partial communications. What she received stunned her. Captain, she reported when Chen returned with the first evacuees. I'm picking up UEG military transmissions. A fleet is assembling at the border. They're coming, sir. The official withdrawal had been suspended following an emergency vote. Admiral Rice herself was leading a battle group into Alliance space, not just to rescue human citizens, but to engage the Krell Dominion directly. The Defiant managed to evacuate 37 critical personnel before Krell reinforcements arrived. As they broke orbit, pursued by Krell fighters, Chen ordered all power to engines. We just need to stay alive long enough to rendezvous with the battle group, he told his exhausted crew. Keep us flying for 6 more hours. They managed 4 before critical systems began to fail. With Krell warships closing in, Chen ordered everyone to the escape pods, a last, desperate measure. But as the first pod prepared to launch, space around them lit up with weapons fire. Through the view screen, Chen watched in awe as human warships dropped out of hyperspace, dozens of them, then hundreds. Admiral Rice's voice came through the patchy communications system. UES Defiant, this is Admiral Rice aboard the dreadnought Humanity's Resolve. Hold position. We're coming to get you. The battle was swift and decisive. The Krell, for all their aggression, had never faced the full might of Earth's fleet. They'd retreated in disarray, their carefully planned invasion suddenly in shambles. In the aftermath, as Chen's crew was transferred to the Humanity's Resolve, he came face to face with Admiral Rice. Technically, you're in violation of direct orders, Captain, she said, her expression stern but her eyes betraying a hint of admiration. Yes, Admiral, Chen replied. I accept full responsibility. Rice almost smiled. Fortunately for you, those orders have been rescinded. The UEG has voted to reverse the withdrawal and offer emergency assistance to all affected Alliance worlds. She paused. Your actions may have been unauthorized, but they reminded us who we are. 1 month later, Representatives from all Alliance species gathered once more in the Grand Assembly Hall on Centauri Prime. This time, Admiral Reyes stood alongside Ambassador Thornvex and the Alliance High Council. The withdrawal of humanity was a mistake, Reyes stated plainly. Not because we don't deserve respect, but because we forgot something essential about ourselves. Humans don't protect others out of obligation. We do it because that's who we are. The new treaty being signed that day fundamentally restructured the Alliance. Humanity received the equal standing they had long deserved, but with it came something more valuable: genuine respect. In a private moment before the ceremony, Thornvex approached Captain Chen, who had received a field promotion to Admiral following his actions. Your ship was reported destroyed, yet you continued your mission, the ambassador observed. Why risk everything for people not your own? Chen considered the question seriously. Because in the moment it mattered, I couldn't choose differently and still be human. Thornvex's skin rippled with colors that Chen had learned indicated deep emotion. That is why the Krell fear you, and why the rest of us need you. As the treaty was signed, establishing the new Galactic Confederation, the assembled representatives stood in silent acknowledgement of a truth that had nearly been forgotten. In the vast, cold reaches of space, the fire of humanity's compassion might be the greatest force of all. Across the stars, wherever the news reached, people of all species looked to the skies with renewed hope. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy could breathe again.